Welcome to the House, Minister Madigan, and congratulations on your new role. It's a pleasure to have you here. Yeah, so this is a very straightforward issue. We are all aware that the numbers of people diagnosed with autism is on the increase every year in this country. And we have done quite well to date in recent years with regards to ASD units in the primary school sector. The reason I raise it today is because we're not doing so well in the secondary school level, and I wanted to find out from the Minister specifically plans in place for the building and construction of more ASD units in Clare and indeed all over the country. We have a situation, and it's across the country. In Clare, for every 3 pupils who need a secondary school ASD unit, there is only 1 place. And when the children have come through a primary school in an ASD unit, they have grown accustomed to that structure and routine, and it has proved really good for them. And then you now have parents who have supported each other all the way through, their children going through the ASD unit, now almost competing with each other to get that 1 place in the secondary school system. And so I'd like to know what's going to happen about that. And the other 2 important points I wanted to make on ASD units in general is that for some reason 3/4 of them are attached to DEIS schools. Now, not in any scientific paper anywhere ever has it been shown that there's any socio-economic link to who has autism. So I would like to know, why is it being attached to mainly DEIS schools, and also why is it not allowed to attach ASD units to private schools that are funded by the state and that the taxpayer helps subsidise? So there's 3 things there. Can you specifically tell me what you're going to do in the immediate and short term with regards to increasing the number of ASD units in secondary schools in Clare? Why are 75% of all ASD units being attached to DEIS schools? That just seems completely wrong. We want equity here in education, and we want the same choices for everybody, and they should be attached to all types of schools. And thirdly, why aren't they allowed to be attached to private schools? Gur Mahagat.
Thank you, Senator. Minister.
Thank you, Senator, for raising this important matter, and may I also take the opportunity to congratulate you on your appointment to the Senate. Our election to the Senate. Enabling children with special education needs to receive an education appropriate to their needs is a priority for this government, and of course for me as the first dedicated minister with responsibility for this area. And next year, over 20% of the total education budget, or €2 billion, will be invested in supporting children with special education needs. And as a result, the number of special education teachers, SNAs and special class and school places are at unprecedented levels. And there's 197 new special classes that have been established nationally for the 2020-21 school year. And of these, approximately 189 will be new ASD special classes, with 64 of these in post-primary schools. And Budget 2021 provided for an additional 235 special class teachers in 2021. And this investment, we hope, will provide 1,200 additional special class places. My department's policy is that all children with SEN, including those with autism, can have access to an education appropriate to their needs, and preferably in school settings through the primary and post-primary school network. And this policy has been informed by published research, including the report of the Task Force on Autism, the evaluation of educational provision for children with autistic spectrum disorders, and the National Council for Special Education policy advice, which supports students with autism spectrum disorder. And this policy ensures that the majority of children with SEN attend mainstream classes with their peers. And such placements facilitate access to individualised education programmes, which may draw from a range of appropriate education interventions. And these are delivered by fully qualified teachers with the support of SNAs, special education teachers and the appropriate school curriculum. And some students, though, might find it difficult to manage full-time placement in a mainstream setting. And for these students, placement in a special class or special school setting where lower pupil-teacher ratios apply and there are other supports available may be more appropriate. So the NCSC, the National Council for Special Education, is responsible for planning and coordinating local education provision and school placements for children with SEN. And the NCSC has advised that there are currently in Clare 9 special classes supporting students with autism in post-primary schools. And one of these classes is an additional one, Senator Garvey, for the 2020-21 school year. And the NCSE also recognises that there is a requirement for additional special class provision at post-primary level, as you mentioned, in Shannon and Ennis over the next few years. And this is based on local information regarding projected demand for future specialist places for students with autism. And it is open to any school to make an application to the NCSE to open a special class. And this will be approved where it is considered that there is a sustainable demand into the future. And the active collaboration of school communities is vital to the effective inclusion of students with special educational needs. Planning for the future takes into consideration the current availability of such places and focuses on those locations where additional provision is required. So the NCSE is currently consulting with local schools, patrons, other education partners and with my department in order to ensure that additional post-primary special classes can be established, which is what you have alluded to. And where a school is not in a position to expand its specialist provision within its existing accommodation, the school can submit an application to my department for capital funding, so to help reconfigure existing spaces, to accommodate the expansion or to construct additional accommodation. And the NCSE, through its network of local CNOs, will continue to engage with the local schools to support the establishment of additional classes as required. And in conclusion, Chair, I want to thank Senator Garvey for giving me this opportunity to address this issue, and my department will continue to support the NCSE and schools through the provision of the necessary funding and capital investment to ensure all children are successful in accessing an education.
Yeah, thanks very much for your response. I guess one new class, just to be clear, is just 6 more places for the entire county for 2021. That's just 6 pupils. That alone won't even meet the needs of the 8 pupils coming from 6 Mile Bridge into Shannon. So I suppose we do need to speed up the process. I also hear very clearly that it's up to the schools to apply. So that probably answers my question as to why private schools and non-DESH schools don't seem to be having ASD units. They obviously aren't willing or wanting to supply that service to people with autism in their school communities, which is something that we should look at as a department if we want to have equity in education. 75% of all ASD units being attached to DESH schools is not good enough in this day and age. It should be equal among all schools, so maybe that's something the department should research more. And also the question about why private schools have no ASD units wasn't answered, especially when it's state funded. I think that is very interesting. I'd like to bring that up again maybe at another time, but I appreciate your response and I will continue to work with you on this issue. Thank you.
One of the issues that you mentioned there in terms of joined up thinking, the department meets with the NCSE on a weekly basis, and as I said in my original contribution, I am the very first minister dedicated for this area. There's a huge body of work to be done, and there is a forecasting model that is being developed at present with the NCSE, so that we have a situation where we can work with existing schools and we can know what, from a demographic perspective, what sort of figures or how many people and how many children with special needs are going to need accommodation. But one of the announcements that I made this week is that all new school buildings, and I got this commitment from the department, all new school buildings will be able to open and have space for special classes and sensory rooms into the future. The difficulty is with existing schools. We obviously have the legislative mechanism under Section 37A of the Education Act, and we have used that on occasion. We used it in South Dublin and also in West Dublin, and we're still in that process with some schools, but we want to work with schools and we want schools to work with us. And the NCSE, their door is always open to engage with CNOs, but I don't want to have a situation in this country where we ever have a child with special needs that isn't in a position to obtain that. There is, as you say, equity in education, and I want to ensure that we reflect that adequately and that we provide for those children. So I'll be doing all I can to do that, and I hope to work with you in the future as well. Thank you.
Thanks. So it seems it's important for schools themselves to look for the units as well. You can't just be above the department stipulating. Thanks.
Sorry.